So I am Véronique Larcher, and for Sennheiser, I develop products and services to create and deliver immersive audio experiences. We do that under our new sub-brand called Embio, and I will go through this in the presentation. And tonight, my focus will be, besides showing you a little bit what we've done and accomplished so far, will be to talk about exciting prospects we see in terms of immersive audio and products and technologies around immersive audio for the emerging applications of augmented reality and mixed reality, AR and MR. So here is a short outline of my presentation. Obviously, I'll talk a little bit about Sennheiser Embio and what we've done so far, especially in the field of virtual reality. And then move on to really the hot topic, I think, for tonight, which is what we call augmented audio. You would think that I would know how to speak in a microphone, but this is quite new to me. And if you lose me, please tell me I should do something else. OK, so what is Sennheiser Embio? Starting by what is Sennheiser. So Sennheiser was once upon a time a startup. It started not in a garage. It started in a farmhouse, which you see here on the picture, and which is still existing and that we are still using on the premises of the headquarters in Hanover, in northern Germany. And 70 years later, obviously, things have changed, and Sennheiser now is established worldwide in more than 24 countries, with a little bit over 2,000 employees. But nonetheless, the spirit is the same, and the family still owns the company. And the company is now established as one of the leaders in microphone and headphone technologies. So during the course of those 70 years, there were quite a few innovations, and I thought I would pick maybe two that are more specifically relevant for the topic of today, of immersive audio. And the first one I wanted to single out is the release in 1968 of the first open-air headphone, the HD 414, which you see here on the picture on the right. It was, for us, the first time that we would provide or deliver sound not in a closed form, and I'm not talking about physical, but acoustically closed or acoustically open, but so acoustically open, whereby you would hear a little bit of the outside. The benefits there were twofold. Number one, the sound quality, because when you are using closed headphones, as you well know, it creates some interferences which can be complicated to compensate for, but also comfort. And that meant that with open-air headphone, the listening experience is so much more comfortable that you would tend to forget that you are wearing headphones and therefore spend longer time experiencing it. And from there to hearables, which we'll talk a little later, that's only one small step. The second innovation of interest, I think, was the products we released in the 70s for binaural audio. And as you probably know, binaural audio is one of those very simple and effective techniques for 3D audio, as it consists really in mimicking the natural hearing by putting or placing two microphones close enough to your eardrum, so thereby replicating what your auditive system and how your auditory system captures 3D audio naturally. So we did two such products, one under the brand Sennheiser, which you see the Stetoset here, which you would typically wear like this and have two microphones recording your audio. And a little, acquired through when we got together with the brand Neumann in '91, their dummy head, the KU 100. So me as a geek, I am of course very proud that we were so early on, but we have to be honest that for 40 years, these techniques were really niche and really of interest only to the experts or the geeks, as I was mentioning. But things changed, and that's where Embio emerged and our reinforced effort on immersive audio technology. That's where it came from. So everything changed when that happened. And what by that I mean 2012, a young guy in his own garage raised a big $2 million in Kickstarter. It was Oculus, for the Oculus Rift, which you see here. And that company later on was purchased by more than $2 billion by Facebook. And with that, a full industry consolidated around VR. And suddenly with VR became something tangible, something that would come up or would be accessible price-wise and quality-wise for consumption by our listeners, our customers, our end users. And therefore, we thought, it's the right time for 3D audio. Again, why? It's because with the emergence of this immersive content, obviously the video is all around you, which means the wearer of those goggles can navigate the visual scene and see wherever he or she desires to look at. And that means that 3D audio suddenly is necessary to create this experience and transport the listener into the desired virtual world. And therefore, from a niche family of techniques, immersive audio became a must-have for the purpose of this new up-and-coming market of virtual reality. So seeing that, Sennheiser said, let's take everything we've done for the past 40 years, and there is a lot, and use those new use cases, those new applications, to productize it. And we created a name for it, which is Embio, and which covers all the products that we released since January 2016, embedding in some form or shape immersive audio technologies, whether it's microphones or headphones, whether it's hardware or software. And I'll go a little bit more detail. Maybe a point of detail, but it's not a detail for us, and I'll give you a little bit of the secret sauce. For we do believe very strongly in the power of height to create emotion into the listeners. I explain. There were already lots of surround sound systems, 5.1, 7.1, and that creates something better or different and appreciable compared to stereo. But the delta, if I may say, of emotion when you add things in height is quite incredible. Of course, I am biased, but I would say, I firmly believe in it. So we decided Embio is going to, to bring immersive audio experiences, a big notch up, and we will consider only experiences that provide height. So not only around, but all around. So binaural would fall in those cases, or we've had 9.1 systems, etc. Embio is therefore always will include height in our products. So, as said before, we really started with VR, and I want to share with you briefly a few things we've accomplished, so you see that there is some concrete stuff behind all the fluffy words I'm using. And I'm not ashamed to present to this audience a workflow. We won't go there in depth, but it's a nice way to look at where we play. This is a very simplified mixing workflow for VR. And as you can imagine, when you want to do field recording, it will start with some microphones. Typically, you will use for a global, let's say, environment mic, ambience mic, with an ambisonic microphone. And then you will add some spots to have more clearer, sounds of the voice or of an actor or whatever other sound. All this will go into a certain format that has become, it's an old format, and I hope I'm not repeating things you know by heart already. Thank you, so I will proceed. This format is ambisonic, and again, something that we in academia had really learned about many years ago, and then, boom, becoming relevant and in the foreground thanks to VR. So everything is mixed in ambisonic. Which means the microphone outputs need to be converted to the right so-called B format, and we'll see what that means in a second. And the spot mics need to be panned to a B format, so that all of this is mixed in a B format bus. Important to point out, when you do this mix, you sitting behind a chair looking at your DAW, your Pro Tools or whatever, you want to experience, to see, is my spatial mix spatial enough, correct, or whatever. The problem is that you get 4 channels of ambisonic, and really, as such, they don't mean much to your ears. So you need something that decodes these 4 channels to binaural, enabling you over headphones, to listen to what you're doing. So that's why there's this block, and I'm going to stop pointing because of the microphone here, but you see the box binaural renderer. That's this converter that is mandatory for the mixing engineer. And you can imagine if we would go beyond this master, but when we go, deliver that to the end user using a Facebook platform, a YouTube platform, then before the person can experience, the listener, the end user, there needs to be such a decoder as well. And ideally, these both would be the same, so the mixer and the end user, can monitor or experience the same sound quality. So now that we've gone through that, let me show you a little bit the pieces where we have delivered since we started in 2016. So obviously, the first piece of the first product we released was the VR mic, or Embio VR mic. So this is a 4-channel microphone, as I said, that needs to be, it outputs what we call A format. The A format is something that is very tightly coupled to the capsule, the positions, and every manufacturer of B format ambisonic microphones has their own A format that's dictated by their manufacturing capabilities or design choices. So we have this, by the way, I will point that to you since you're specialists. It's funny that we take this picture without the grill. Obviously, you need to put the grill on the mic, okay, so that to use it. But when you put it on, it looks like a vocal mic, and our marketing decided it's really not cool. So all the pictures for sure are shown without the grill put on the mic, which unfortunately led some of our end users to use it without. Catastrophe. But it's easy to debug. So the mic comes together with this piece of software, converting our not so useful A format to the standard B format. It's a free plugin that you download from our website. But maybe what's more interesting is that since the mic was released, we've created some partnerships with some hardware manufacturer, in particular the field recorders that you would use to record on site something. Typically, you need to put your 4-channel somewhere, Tascam recorder, Zoom, for example. And instead of recording your useless A format and then converting in a DAW, in Pro Tools, with the A to B converter, you can record, just directly the B format because the code is in the recorder. So that's constant attempt to make the workflow to the end users easier because it's a new practice for everybody and it's still a little complex. So anyway, we're trying to do our bit to make it easier. Something else we've done is to provide a decoder for the mixing engineers, which we did in collaboration with a plugin manufacturer called Noisemakers. And for that decoder, taking a B format to binaural, our motto has been let's try and decode our mic to sound as close as possible to the KU100. As if we had the Neumann KU100, our industry reference for binaural recording, in the place. Of course, going from the mic, the VR mic, we only make an approximation, but it's pretty good for you to tell us. Same way, we have packaged this as a library that can be integrated by apps, VR apps, for the end users to experience. So, like here, I gave you in a few minutes a little bit of what we've done in VR in the past 2 years. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but it certainly kept us busy. And now we're happy that it's time to think about what's coming next, and we are pretty excited by the next step in these virtual experiences linked to, coming with augmented reality. And we call the sound for it augmented audio. More precisely, for us, augmented audio is the use of sound to enhance human capabilities and improve our interaction with the world all around us. We associate it with wearable listening devices, or hearables. And And we see it as I just said, the audio component for the up-and-coming augmented audio mixed reality component experiences. And not only, in and of itself, potentially augmented audio can create already a lot of compelling experiences. By augmented reality, here is what I mean. It's these applications where you wear those transparent glasses. So unlike for VR, you're not cut from the physical world around you. Instead, the virtual world is mixing or blending perfectly, we hope, with the physical world. So the virtual object knows there is a chair here and sits on the chair. And you see that, blending perfectly. I mean, that's the dream. And we believe in it, that it's coming. But it's not coming all at once. And for the products that are available today, there's a big drawback, or there's, let's say, a limitation, which comes with the limited field of view. When we look at, naturally with our eye, we have a field of view of about 175 degrees. That means minus 90 plus 90, more or less. Whereas with those glasses, your virtual world, so with Microsoft HoloLens, is minus 35 plus 35. So you see there's a big difference. And that means, if you look at the little scene right here, that means that when your virtual object is coming, you see it quite late in your field of view. Therefore, the sound becomes even more important than it was for virtual experiences. Not only do we need the sound here for its immersive capacity, immersion, bringing you, contributing to bring you in the world that's supposed to be this augmented reality world, but in addition, it can help you overcome the current constraints of the visual display. Because if this robot now has a sound it makes, then it can alert me that, oh, something is coming here, and I can turn and immediately see it in my field of view. So just highlighting this to show how important augmented audio in these first few years of augmented reality, how much important its role will be. So having set the stage, I wanted to open 3 doors, 3 types of applications to show what we are thinking about, where to apply augmented audio, and not only show you where we are thinking, but also encourage you or tease your brain for creatives like you to dive into this topic and make things move further, faster. And so we've decided to group them into 3 categories, which we've called holopresence, human-world interaction, and self-augmentation. And I will start with the first one. When you see that, I guess it tells everything there is to know about holopresence. Specific use case of, let's say, inter-individual communication, telecommunication. What's interesting here, or in this example, is that obviously there is no physical transducer, at the place of what I will call the Holo Jedi. There's no physical thing creating sound, and yet, imagine Yoda and Obi-Wan with their hearables. They have to experience what he is saying, with Yoda perceiving him to the right, Obi-Wan to the left. So there is some smartness in the device here to know how to provide the right perspective. Then, obviously, when the Jedi is talking, the Holo Jedi is talking, and the other 2 are hearing him, the sound of his voice has to be in the room of the council, because otherwise it sounds, it's not plausible. It doesn't match. So there is some knowledge about the room we are in, and a way to simulate that and process it as it's displayed to the other 2. And finally, as you well know, Yoda is going to do a little flip and go in the center of the council, and then he will hear the voice of the Jedi in a certain way, like direct, whereas when he was on his side, the voice was more muffled because, normally, we do have a directivity, a radiation pattern when we speak, and for this holography to be believable, this has to be reproduced as well. This outlines a little bit all the challenges that undergoes this very nice and simple picture. But obviously, inter-individual communication is not the only application of such techniques. In fact, we've seen some musical applications already. So years ago, I mean 2012, it was a Coachella Festival where Tupac, who passed away in the 90s, appeared on stage next to, as a hologram, next to Snoop Dogg, who was, alive, and they were singing in duo, in a duo. And closer to my heart, and I apologize for this political reference, the French, one of the French candidates started his campaign, presidential campaign in France last May by meeting people in two locations, two cities, Lyon, where he was physically present, and Paris, where he was a hologram. The two rooms were packed, and obviously he made the headlines of the press. He didn't win, but was kind of a coup. Now, in those two last real experiences, there was not much interaction. Okay, people are pretty much standing in front, and they're not allowed to go around and check that they did the right sound simulation. But here is what I think will really exercise and put into practice all the concepts I introduced earlier. It's this. It's the soccer field goes into your home, into your living room. So this picture is a little bit overdoing it. What we should imagine, of course, is this family wearing those glasses I mentioned to you, with their hearable in their ears, able to communicate with each other, of course, but and the holographic live sports would be maybe the size of their coffee table, but nonetheless, they can move the perspective, they can maybe zoom in, and I invite you to think about all that means in terms of techniques to capture that. In fact, that's to close this, let's say, little dream about holopresence. There are a few more nuts to crack, so it's not like it's ready tomorrow. There's a lot of passion and work to be put behind this to make it a reality. What we call volumetric capture and modeling. So again, if you want this live sports event to be brought to you, and you can choose any point of view from above, from the side, zoom into a player, follow the player you like. Imagine what it means for, of course, the visual capture of a hologram and the sound capture of a hologram. It's quite different kinds of technique, and a single mic will not do, clearly. But yeah, so far nobody has really found and delivered a system that would make it work. Interesting topic. And then, as I was mentioning earlier, obviously you enter in a new room, and you're having this virtual world making sound that are in the virtual acoustics. You're changing room. That virtual acoustic needs to automatically change to this new room. That means you have something live in your hearables, detecting the acoustic, analyzing it, and processing all the virtual words through this new acoustic. Not trivial, but that's why it's interesting. That there's plenty of good things to look for and to invent. I move to the second body of applications we are interested in, or we think are exciting, which we call human-world interaction, or how augmented audio will offer us a new interface to the world around us. And to illustrate that, I like to refer to this book by this I would say kids writer, Roald Dahl, British, who wrote The Sound Machine. And the sound machine is depicted here, if you want. It enables you, when you wear the headphones, to hear the sounds of nature that you would not hear normally. So in other words, you walk on the flower, and you hear the scream of the flower you're walking on. And in the same vein, you could imagine how such a sound machine, or let's call it augmented audio now, would enable you to hear sound that you have difficulties hearing, like could be another voice. So discarding magically any other sound, outside of this voice. I don't know if it was popular in Switzerland, but in France we had Super Jamie. Do you remember her? I mean, okay, you have to be over 40 for that, but okay, I wouldn't move on. But she was, like that, and and that would be the sound that she's trying to hear. But that's this idea. But we can take that concept also to navigation systems, and imagine today I'm looking for this place here, and I'm holding my phone and Google Maps here, and it's cold, and all I want is to put my hand in my pocket to be warm, but no, I have it outside, trying to find the direction. Instead, if my hearable could just let me follow an auditory beacon, like a few virtual meters ahead of me, I would just need that, would be, how much better would be this interface to my route, to my world. Danger awareness is another one that could be interesting. We think like when you're biking and your hearable would be able to detect before you would hear it and amplify the sound of a danger, like a car passing by. And what's even more, if it is able to position it virtually like this warning in the right position, it will make you react efficiently all the faster. In fact, if I'm not running too late, Lucretia, I count on you to tell me. I want to mention a little bit of a side experience we've done in our lab years ago. We were looking at first-person shooter games. So video games in which you're killing stuff. And the question was, can 3D audio, so positioning those targets in 3D using binaural audio typically, can it make you a better shooter? So we put together a little game where we had only auditory cues. You would be surrounded by targets, so it's a flat screen, huh? And at a random time, a target, like a body, a carton body, would come up with a noise, click, and you would have to, and it was all around you, and you would have to turn to the right person with only auditory cues and shoot it. I mean, in the screen here, you would see the target on the little screen in front, but there's all this where you wouldn't see the target, and you would have to find it and shoot it. And so we observed that when you do that with stereo sound, non-binaural audio, okay, versus when you do it with, I should say, when you do it with binaural audio, you increase, the number of targets you shoot is increased by more than 23%. So making you indeed a better shooter. So my point really was to say 3D audio, when localizing a danger or something similar, can really improve the quality and speed of your reaction to be safe. And the last example, to bring it back to maybe music, is the aspect of sonification of the world that such augmented audio with a hearable could provide. So I like to talk about this app. I don't know if you remember the movie Inception. It was in 2010, and with Leonardo DiCaprio. And you would move. People in the movies would meet in dreams, and from dream to dream they would meet each other, and some things will happen. The music was done by Hans Zimmer, and so it was a very dreamy music, etc. And he decided to do an app with it, and that's what I want to describe. The idea of the app was that you wear it, you have your phone, you wander in some specific, in your world. Could be a city, could be, the mountains where the cows here have the bell and make sound. Whatever sound it is, the mic of your headset would capture this sound, and the app would analyze the texture of this sound and somehow change the mix of the music. So the music of the app was starting from the assets of the movie by Hans Zimmer, but you would create through the app, through the sound around you, the soundtrack of your life. That's how it called it. And the music would then be altered by those sounds, making it difficult to understand what's the dream, what's the music from the app, and what's 3D from the outside. And if I have a second, I will try to play a little video where we see Hans Zimmer talking about this. We'll give you a little break from me. Drijan, tu peux regarder?
When the DVD of Inception comes out, which will be quite soon, we've built a little iPhone application, just because we could, which scores your dreams. So it's without getting into the huge technicalities of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But it reacts to your environment, it reacts to you, it reacts to your pace, and it plays with things. So you know, it does an individual piece of music for you out of the Inception stuff. So you're back to that shared dreaming
Yeah.
experience.
I love this.
And of course you can record it and you can send it, you know, can send it to your friend going,
Sure.
hey, listen, I had this, you know, wow, this great moment.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, you know, the little prototype, anybody who tries it out, let me see how to phrase this. I don't think, I played it to Pharrell Williams, who's you know, a friend, and, you know, Pharrell's playing with the thing, and he comes back and he goes, it's legal drugs without side effects. It's fantastic. I mean,
That sounds
you know,
great.
it literally
That sounds
it
great.
changes. You
Yeah.
know, it changes the way you think of
Yeah.
your environment.
Yeah.
And because you know, here I have this piece of technology that really is a clock. So it'll be different in the morning than it'll be at night. It knows where you are. There's a track on the Inception album called Mombasa, and I'm just terrible, but you can only hear that track on that application if you're in Mombasa. So, you know, two people will hear it.
Yeah, right,
But,
right,
you know, it's just a game.
Yeah,
You know, I love the game.
Yeah, that's
but
great.
But the idea of, you know, a piece of music can become your piece of music. You know, and who you know, in a funny way, you can be in my band, or you can be.
Yeah.
You know, there's a connection, or there's a community, or there's a way we can, you know, touch.
Well, that and I mean that's an interesting way to bring.
I didn't answer that guy at all.
That's
You
all
know,
right.
we're
He's young.
totally
He's
off
got,
somewhere else.
He's got lots of time to get questions answered. Huh?
Okay. So we can do quite a lot of I think, interesting thing using augmented audio in this area as well. A few things to tease your brain about is, of course, that it's all nice and pretty, but when we try to really enhance or have supernatural hearing, there's a few things that need to be accomplished and that are not solved yet, including the ability to really single out a certain sound and discard everything else. We can, on some very stationary background sound, we know how to pick out a voice from you know, an airplane noise, typically. But that's pretty much it today. So there's a lot to work on. But people are working on it. So I have good hopes it will be solved within a few years. Moving on to my last chapter, self-augmentation. And here I have two points. Please don't read it, it's too many words, I'm sorry. So the first one, is the following. The idea that, I hope you will agree with me, that music can have a huge impact on your mood. Okay, that it can bring you to a relaxation mode, or on the contrary, it can keep you awake or alert. So there's this point. And the fact that today, and that's the game changer, there are some emotion sensors, if I may say, that can fit in your ear. Let me explain. Until now, EEG or electroencephalograms were using sensors, you know, that would drill into your skull to capture what they call alpha, beta, gamma waves. Clinical grade EEG is still something that's pretty invasive. You not necessarily have things that go in your skull, but you know, they have gel and it's really messing your air, and it's not a consumer product. That was before. Now it's been a few years that you see EEG sensors, in other words, those sensors that capture the brain waves that are, you know, gel-free, and that can sit somewhere in your skull and capture those waves. And with modern data processing techniques, you can actually derive emotions and know when the wearer is, you know, angry, or when he is or she is aroused, or whatever else. So it's I would call emotion tracking. And the even newer things that we've seen appear in several universities in the past couple of years are that those sensors can actually be located, you know, first miniaturized enough, and then located in the ear canal or in the ear. Because after all, when you think about it, it's not far from the brain either. It's just a different, you know, point of view. And it can capture those emotions. So you can from there imagine a certain loop wherever, if I have a very stressful presentation like tonight, I put my earbud and I say, bring me to relax, give me the music to meditate and get well. I do that. Or if I am drowsy driving, put my earbuds and I say, please don't keep me awake. I shouldn't fall asleep tonight while I'm driving. And that would be through music. Just an example. I don't say it's good, I don't say it's bad, I don't say it's smart. I just say it's really exciting. And I'm sure there is a very unique and useful application for us, for society. I will add just one point on this one. What does it have to do with 3D audio? And here I would do another testimony of my personal experience. So to go from just sound feedback to drive your mental state and emotions to 3D sound feedback. We were once asked to look at the problems in call centers where people wear headsets day long and are on the phone. And actually there's a huge turnover in these industries because it's just very hard. It's a very hard job to do, and it's actually extremely draining and fatiguing because you're talking to and you're listening all day long. So I said, can you do something with the sound of your headset to just make the life of our employees better? That was a cool target to have, and so we hacked at it and we tried something. And what we use is actually 3D audio, binaural audio, to process the incoming voice that you have from your phone call, to put it outside of your head. Not to say, oh, look, it's cool 3D audio, but to say, let's see if it helps reduce listening fatigue. And it did, and it worked. And I would say maybe it's not saying much, but me personally, I am spending hours on the phone every day, and I have my headset. I have it on, and I will not have it any other way. So I think there's a correlation that I hope we can demonstrate between immersive audio, could be immersive music, and listener fatigue or lack thereof. Basically meaning that it's possible that maybe by processing and delivering immersive audio to a listener, that they can listen to their music more comfortably or longer without fatiguing. Just an hypothesis I want to bring out here. And I'm almost done. My last point is about this digital immortality. So here you're going to think I'm really going out there, but let me go there. You probably know the holodeck, which is a place where Captain Kirk can come and meet people who are dead, who come back. He values their advice, and he wants to keep discussing with them, and so the people come back from the dead and talk to him. And the thought we wanted to challenge you with is the following. Imagine my earbud is something I wear all day long. It has, of course, something to play sound, but it has also something to listen, a microphone, so I can communicate and do all the other stuff I talked about before. But here in this application, the microphone is actually listening to me. It's listening to how my voice sounds like, how I laugh, what do I sound like when I chat with my work colleagues, how I sound like when I talk to my daughter. All these intonations, it tries to understand, assimilate, and model me. And not only for my voice and audio, but why not for way more, like my ways of thinking, my ways of argumenting. And the more I wear it, and the more it learns about me. And ideally, that creates, my avatar. And what I like about this, it's not so much that I want to duplicate myself as such, but should I go too soon in my life, I would love to give my avatar to my daughter and just let her, if she wants, not be alone for the rest of her life, and still, if she values my opinion, be able to go in the holodeck and meet me there and let me talk to her a few seconds or more. So anyway, I told you, it was a little bit out there. But obviously, there's a lot here to learn and to develop, and a lot of machine learning, although call it artificial intelligence. So back to reality, and to close, let me say a little bit about what we are doing, going in these directions. The first thing we've done is to release a front end, which we believe could be a front end for augmented audio. We call it Ash, the Embio Smart Headset, but actually we are going to call it Ash, Embio Ash, which you see here, which you see on this elegant young man. Yeah. Not that we work together or anything, but... what it does is that it does have microphones on the outside. It's earbuds where you can listen to music or anything. And these microphones can be used, of course, for binaural recording, bringing it to a very cheap 300 francs. Or it can also be used for what we call transparent hearing, which is this function of letting some of your outside world inside. So that's already out, currently for the iPhone only, but coming soon for Android. The next thing we are preparing, and we have, we are polishing right now, is our 3D audio software, enabling you to position sound in your virtual world. So you can, work on these applications where you have the physical world coming in through the mics, and the virtual world positioned wherever you design. Yes. The only point here, and that's it, we're going to release those tools in a couple of months, in March, to the creators and sound designers who are interested in exploring those avenues I described, or others much more interesting. So, we hope this way that we will pave the way for new applications for audio, immersive audio, augmented audio, and help develop the skills for these new artists and developers who will create the future of augmented reality and mixed reality. So, with those words, I will thank you for bearing with me through this and invite you to sign up for our newsletter if you're interested in being informed of when we release those tools, which will be free for we will have not a competition but a selection process, and those who get in will get them for free. Okay, well, thank you very much, and I wish you a good evening.